Mic check 1 2, it's the Boba Joe crew. Mark Lennon, Johnny Somerson coming straight to you. Talking classic eras, yeah we setting the scene. Films, games, tunes, toys, you know what I mean? From the old school vibe, feeling so divine. Boba Joe show, drop the beat so low. Heavy bass lines make your speakers blow. Kicking it classic, from heads to the toe. Yeah baby, yeah, watch the Boba Joe show. Mortal Kombat, Predator, Scarface in the flow. Miami Vice vibe, MacGyver on the go. Alien screams, NBA jam all night. Pro wrestling legend, shining never so bright. Macho Man Randy, Ric Flair. Yeah. Show, drop the beat so low. Heavy bass lines make your speakers blow. Kicking it classic from head to toe. Yeah baby, yeah, watch the Boba Joe show. Action figures lined up, ready for the fight. Ninja Turtles power shining ever so bright. Transformers roll out, masters of the universe. Classic memories can't be reversed. Yeah, baby. Boba Joe, that's the flow. Boba Joe, Boba Joe.
Hey yo, welcome to the Boba Joe.
What's up, everybody? Hope everybody is having as good a week as they can possibly have. We are back with a vengeance. We got a real bit of pep in our step. We're not going to mess around. We're serious. We're ready to take care of business.
If you've got no beard, then we've got no mercy for you.
But yes, we are here to talk about Lone Wolf Mcquade. I'm sure many of our viewers have heard the sad news recently that Chuck Norris has passed away. And, you know, we had at some point eventually planned on doing a look at Lone Wolf Mcquade.
Yeah, it was in the next 2 months. It wouldn't have been that far away.
Yeah, so, but given the circumstances, it seemed appropriate to bring it forward. And it's not going to be our first look at Chuck, but it's definitely going to be a good one. Yeah,
he's up there. Well, he doesn't need to round kick the pearly gates, but I mean, if you want to try to keep him out, watch out. We did previously talk about Chuck in Invasion USA last year, so that one's on the old playlist. If you want to check that out, but I'll chuck that in the show description if you want to go part. If anyone clicks on the show description, it'll be like near the top under the usual subscribe. Blur the blather there. We did that as part of a like action movie special last year. We had Schwarzenegger and Commando. We did Stallone and Rambo, Van Damme and Bloodsport, Norris and Invasion USA. Trying to do some of the like iconic roles because we're going to come back for round 2 and do some more of these kind of films. Like I'm prepared. I've got Van Damme over here. I've got the Chuck who can kick over here. And I was literally on eBay today. I watched rewatched Mcquade this morning and last night because I fell asleep and watched the rest this morning. I was very tired. And then I watched Walker, Texas Ranger. I watched the pilot of that. While I was watching that, I ordered about 3 more Chuck movies that I didn't already have. So I have a few, but I was looking for those $10 eBay bargains. I thought now's the time to remind me to pick them up while I can.
Pick them up while you can, while they're still available, because as we often mention on this show, when it comes to streaming services, there's no guarantee really that what you want to watch is going to be there week to week. Get yourself a physical copy if you can.
I mean, $10 for some of those best films, and you can get multi-packs that are really cheap to have some of those other good ones.
He's got plenty of hits, does Chuck, from what we're going to look at today with Lone Wolf, but also
all hits, no misses if you get anywhere near them.
100%, Missing in Action, Delta Force. He's got quite the resume of classic action movies.
Yeah, he's got lots of cool ones. Speaking of action movies, being on a bit of a bend. Well, this is kind of round 2. Actually, that action combos we did last year. I bought a bunch of movies in, like some Van Dammes and more Schwarzeneggers. I've got a few more Blu-rays of Schwarzenegger now. Already had quite a few. Already pretty much had the Ramos and Rocky, so I didn't need to buy them again. But yeah, I've been picking up mostly Kung Fu ones lately, but anything else that was good Jackie Chan ones, Jet Li. Walker, I had some of these box sets from a few months ago, and then I got the complete series every season, even cheaper than I bought the previous 3 for on eBay. So it was a combo. So I went, well, I've got some doubles now. So if I want to put them on in stereo on 2 different TVs and have them roundhouse kicking on the same episode at different ends of the house, I can do that, and no one can stop me.
Walker is it's quite the show, and obviously we're going to be talking about his more serious Texas Ranger portrayal in today's movie. But Walker, there's something very unique about Walker Texas Ranger in the sense that you have this badass action movie star who's kind of known for his super violent movies, essentially. But Walker is the type of show that
it's like a
you
family
can show it
show.
during the daytime. It's family friendly.
It's PG.
You know, your
serious
grandparents would like it. Like, you know, it's got that kind of daytime.
The violence is
toned
down. Definitely his more Christian side is coming through, because it can be quite preachy and moralistic. And I mean, it's something like if you're a Christian family, you could watch it and not be too afraid it's violent for kids and stuff like that. And it can get at times like kind of cheesy and silly, but it has its ups and downs, just like MacGyver, Magnum PI, those kind of shows. You get a lot of formula TV writing because there's like, I don't know, there's over 100 episodes or however many there is. So you're going to get ups and downs, good ones and bad ones, but it's Chuck Norris and it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable pablum at times, and sometimes it's got its high notes, but the cast is great, and, you know, I enjoy watching it.
Oh, yeah. And it can range kind of from, you know, a relatively straightforward, well, you know, this week we have to stop the bank robbers or whatever. Whereas then you can watch the next episode and it's about like a computer that's gained intelligence and that's trying to take over the world.
Well,
like it can just go from...
I just watched one where it was a victim of like a sexual crime, and then it was quite serious. So they do like kind of issue episodes that are like real life stuff, kind of trying to highlight things that, you know, go on in the world that get kind of swept under the rug. So they're trying to, like, you know, do stuff which is good, like, you know, and do it in a way that's not too confrontational or too adult themes, but done in a way that's safe for families to watch and that, and you know, be able to talk about and whatever. I didn't have any John Wick movies, and I'm like, oh, got all 4 of them.
Would you believe I've still only watched the first one?
I've only watched the first one, but I've bought the 4 of them now. So I'll be watching all these the next month or so. Well, some of them rewatching, but and that Man from Hong Kong, that's the one that's got George Lazenby in it, and it was filmed in Australia in the 70s. It's the one and only Australian kung fu film. Like, it's actually a Hong Kong Australia co-production, filmed in Australia by an Australian director, Brian Trenchard Smith, and it's genuinely cool. And it's got George Lazenby, the only Aussie Bond ever, as the bad guy in it, and he gets set on fire for real. And he gets burnt for real, and you can see him flailing around. Well, they failed to put him out fast enough, and he got real bad burns, and had to go to the fucking hospital. Well, you didn't have stuntmen in those days. You're just like, sorry, lead actor, you're going to get burnt.
Yeah. George Morden earning his money for that flick.
Yeah,
my God.
But it's actually a really cool film, and ironically, the guy in it, Jimmy Wang Yu, was like the guy who was around before and after Bruce Lee and had a much bigger career. Not a genuine martial artist, but a genuine like athlete. He could move, but not. Whereas Bruce Lee was a real fighter as well as an actor. Bruce Lee became very famous and known for his roles, but he was kind of directly in competition with Jimmy Wang Yu back in the 70s for roles and at the studios and all that. So they kind of didn't like him because he was like, oh, this guy can, what can he do? He can like swim and dance or some shit. He's not a real fighter. So Bruce Lee didn't like him. but he is a good actor and he's a good performer in the good movies. But yeah, Walker Texas Ranger is the show that was pretty much inspired by the movie we're going to be talking about, being the lone wolf Mcquade, fighting, loving, killing. There's no one like Mcquade.
An excellent poster, beautiful looking artwork here.
Yeah, I was looking at this art again today, like enjoying it, and then having just watched it again this morning, I'm like, that's just not one of those boastful posters. Literally everything in that poster actually happened. So they obviously based it on the scenes, because sometimes poster artist just gets told go and do whatever, but it looks like kind of generic stuff, but everything actually does happen in the movie. It's in the poster.
And, this is one of those movies. I didn't actually realize this, even though I've always really enjoyed this movie. Like, I think it's kind of to be expected that people like you and me would enjoy these movies. But I was actually surprised to learn this. It's actually quite a critically well-received movie in terms of, like, it
Yeah, it's got
actually is.
a decent amount of story and sort of stuff in it and character development.
Like Robert Ebert and a few of the other talking heads, like they gave it quite favorable reviews.
Yeah,
Whereas,
that's surprising. Yeah.
some of our other Chuck favorites, like even Invasion USA, for example, that we looked at, I don't think it was very, well received critically.
I wouldn't think so,
even
because
if
it's
it
been like
was
canon
a
and all that, and
success.
it's definitely like cheese and over the top. It's like his version of Schwarzenegger's Commando, pretty much. Whereas Lone Wolf is like more like a Dirty Harry 70s film and stuff like that. Like, even though it's 83, as soon as I watch it, I mean, man, this is a 70s film. It's the style of it and everything.
It feels like you're watching a spaghetti western with a sprinkle of kung fu and then a dash of 80s action movie thrown
Pretty
in
much
on top as well.
Like they had towards the end of the 70s, you had like even Clint Eastwood, who was in the westerns of Dirty Harry, but then you had like Coogan's Bluff, and you had like bloody Wayne was in, like, was it McClintock, or we had ones where they were playing like a cop, and it was like the western guy, but he was in like the big city and kind of fish out of water and all that. And so we get elements of this sort of thing here too, where he's like, it's like the old West and Texas and the border, but then he's got to deal with all the modern politics and rules and shit.
And looking at that poster here, so the guy who does the soundtrack, his name is Francesco De Masi. And I can tell you right now, folks, anybody who's not watched this film, you're missing out by just not hearing the soundtrack alone. It has a beautiful score. Just as good as any Ennio Morricone score you might have heard in a spaghetti western. In fact, I'm pretty sure this Francesco and Ennio may have known each other in real life. I may have read that somewhere before. There's a tangible connection there, I think, and you can definitely feel that kind of spaghetti western style bit of music in this movie. It's just so good. Really gets the goosebumps on your skin.
So we'll do a little sidebar for a moment here. I'm just going to do a quick overview of kind of Chuck's kind of career and highlights and shit, and then we'll come back to talking about an old Lone Wolf here. Just to give a bit of context to the man himself, like I've been a fan of his for many years. Not just growing up as a kid, like it was like bloody Van Damme and Seagal and Schwarzeneggers and Rambos and Chuck Norris. 70s John Wayne and bloody Death Wish and all that sort of Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin, all that shit. And then repeats on TV is where I used to see this stuff. But I liked this movie since back then. I used to watch Walker on the first run it was on. I used to see those bloody Total Gym infomercials when I was in high school and I couldn't sleep because there was nothing else on, and I would just watch it. I've seen it probably like 100 times or more because I go to bed at night. I used to play them in New Zealand endlessly. And being a fan of Bruce Lee films from the 70s, I knew about his relationship with Bruce Lee, being a friend, that they worked out together and learned from each other. And of course, he went on to be in Way of the Dragon as his like opponent in that. But yeah, I've admired him as many years, and he's also done lots of work for various charities and started martial arts schools for kids and stuff. So I'm going to cheat and just read from Wikipedia because I started making some notes this week just from memory, and I've got a couple of books he wrote years ago. So there was a bit of stuff already in my head. And I was reading Wikipedia and went, the summary is pretty good, and I can just pick and choose and just writing. I think there's no real point because it's pretty reasonably informative. So I'll have a quick read and then we'll get back to talking about the movie. So Carlos Ray Norris, being his actual name, was an American martial artist, actor, screenwriter, and author. He did some books way back then about like karate, point fighting and shit, but then he's done his own autobiography and stuff and talked about things like the death of his brother in Vietnam, and that was quite moving and quite frank in the book he wrote. He held black belts in karate, taekwondo, tang soo do, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and judo, which is most people know him from either point competition karate fight in the 70s, or they know in the 80s he did all the big round kicks and stuff that's like the Korean style, the high kicks. from his action movies or Walker. That's kind of the things the old school Chuck people know about before, I don't know, Expendables and whatever else. So Norris began working in the American film industry as a martial arts instructor for celebrities before making his screen debut with a minor role in the Wrecking Crew. So very similar to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee kind of became like a personal trainer to the stars. He's started off, did Green Hornet. He wanted to break into films, but no one was going to cast a lead Chinese guy at that time in American film. It just wasn't going to happen for a lot of obvious reasons, racism being one of them. But actually trying to sell a movie, on the other hand, as a studio. So Bruce Lee ended up doing being Kato in the Green Hornet on TV, which made him a good bit of money. He made enough money, went back to China and did stuff over the Golden Harvest and Ramen Chow and blew up real big over there. And then eventually came back to America down the track and, did more stuff. But he started marketing himself to the stars and got to know things like kickboxer Joe Louis and hung out with like James Coburn and Sterling Silliphant and other people. And all the Hollywood people said to Bruce, you're selling yourself short. Like, if you're going to, don't just work out with people, charge for private lessons. This is Hollywood. You can name your price. You're selling yourself too short, charge a high price. So he started doing that. And that's how Bruce started butting up to all these Hollywood people and getting relationships with screenwriters and writers and Hollywood people who became friends, as well as people who were basically paying him to, be, the kind of exotic, new thing on the block and help it. But he helped out actual competition point fighters as well. And Chuck Norris, similar thing, started off behind the scenes in movies and whatnot before becoming a sort of leading man eventually. Went on to be in like stuff like Force of One, Octagon, Silent Rage, Lone Wolf Mcquade, Missing in Action series with Canon Films, Invasion USA that we talked about, and with Code of Silence, Walker, Texas Ranger, and of course Peasants Expendables 2. Became a best-selling author on books on martial arts, exercise, philosophy, conservative politics, Christian Western fiction, which I didn't know about that one. I know he's a Christian, but I didn't know he'd written Christian Western fiction. That's very specific audience, but plenty of people can buy that in America. Self-help and biography, and wrote a regular column for a particular website. And he used to repost that on Facebook, actually. He used to repost the stuff on there all the time. And, of course, there was the internet memes of Chuck Norris facts, which went on from being plain text on old websites. There used to be stuff like Yo Mama jokes, facts about Mr. T or Vin Diesel or Hulk Hogan, whoever. And then it became Chuck Norris blew up real big, and they started actually collecting them in little books. Chuck Norris appeared on like late night talk shows, reading out some of the jokes and kind of got on the humor, and there's bits of merchandise and shit came years later. Brief highlights of his career, which this was also in his autobiography I read a couple of years ago. Says in 1958, Norris joined the United States Air Force as an air policeman, was stationed in an air base in South Korea. There he acquired the nickname Chuck and began training in Tang Soo Do. After returning to the United States, he continued serving as an AP at March Air Force Base in California. In August 1962, was discharged from the Air Force with the rank of Airman First Class. So you can see he's like got into a particular style of martial arts other than Japanese karate. He's now picking up these Korean styles. So that's the early form of what you call cross-training, which is nothing Bruce Lee used to do, is look at different styles and learn from, put things together. And he's obviously developing discipline, being in the military and routine and all that would serve him well as, other professional careers. Norris lost his first two competitive bouts in point fighting, dropping decisions to Joe Louis and Alan Steen. Later lost rounds to international karate championships. He continued to improve, but came back and he won several tournaments and such, and made a lot of relationships with other fighters, and then moving into like Hollywood stuntmen and stuff like that. Because in the 70s, there was a real big thing for, practical stunts and all that shit and things, explosions we love in movies. So a lot of people, if you're a high level martial artist and had some kind of swagger and you had knew how to pal around to get to know people, you might end up being either a stuntman or a fight choreographer on a movie before it became a sort of formalized thing. It was like whoever you knew. It might have been, judo's Gene LaBelle or whoever you could find that was willing to do the job and put their neck on the line, basically do these kind of jobs. In 1968, Norris suffered a 10th final loss of his career. Went on to come back and win other tournaments, yada, yada, yada. At All-American Championships, he met Bruce Lee, who was doing a display there. They formed a friendship and ended up having a working and training relationship. '72, he's in Way of the Dragon with Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee, through his friendship with him, requested him to be in Way of the Dragon. There were other people he considered for that, but the only other people he considered were also legitimate fighters. He didn't want an actor in that role. He wanted someone who was a fighter first, actor second. So Chuck Norris is pretty much the only person who was a professional fighter and also becoming an actor. The other guys Bruce Lee knew were just like pro fighters, but not actors. And '74, Steve McQueen, who was Norris's martial arts student friend at the time, saw his potential and encouraged Norris to begin acting classes. The same year, he played the supporting role of the main antagonist in Lo Wei's Yellow-Faced Tiger. So he palled around and made all kinds of relationships that led to, being a kick-ass action star. And in the '80s, you had the Cannon films, Octagon, Missing in Action, and all the things we're kind of familiar with. I'll just skip ahead to the other bits interesting. We had Walker in the '90s, some other kind of dodgy films in the late '90s, 2000s that are watchable, but not as good as his classic ones. Went on to do quite a lot of work. He studied more martial arts, of course, so pretty much for his whole career, learning more styles. But he did a lot of, I can never pronounce this word, like philanthropic work, like donations for both in America and overseas, like foreign aid. He started like karate schools for basically for kids in poor at-risk neighborhoods where they're at risk of joining like drugs and gangs and shit like that, to give them something better to do and focus on in life. The same way in some neighborhoods people would go do boxing and that to keep them way out of trouble. And he did that quite successfully for a long time, ran these schools and that really made a difference. And he went on to do foreign aid in many different countries around the world, and bloody Middle East and fucking India and other stuff as well as America. So I've been an admirer, not just as him as an actor, martial artist, just as a human being and decent person. Like Bruce Lee, he's very multi-talented, done a lot of different things. He has very strong Christian values where he's like a very moral person, cares about doing the right thing. So that translates well to being American action, all around action movie star. And he's probably the most, even though in some of the films he's just like kind of blowing people away, it's usually for the right reason. He's not like a death wish kind of character. He's a bit more, a bit more than that.
He's an awesome individual, and I'll throw in an extra highlight to his career. He helped The Undertaker defeat Yokozuna at the 1994 Survivor Series.
That is actually in the Wikipedia.
So for those of you who haven't seen it, The Undertaker, he's having a casket match against Yokozuna at the 1994 Survivor Series, which is actually, I believe, in Texas. So it's in the home territory of the Texas Rangers. So
yeah,
The Undertaker, he's being ambushed by a gang of heels, and thankfully Chuck Norris, Walker himself, is there as a ringside enforcer. He makes his way down to the ring and he gives Jeff Jarrett like a kind of like front karate kick, which Jeff Jarrett sells by doing a complete flip and like landing on his head and just like collapsing.
Yeah, I remember that.
A great moment, for wrestling fans to get a bit of Chuck Norris action.
And you've seen sometimes at either WWF or WCW, he turns up at random times just in the audience too, and Schwarzenegger occasionally as well, depending on where they're touring and what state they're in. What occasionally we'll see them in the audience.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of crossover in those circles of the action kind of stars and fighters of the time and the professional wrestling industry. That was a real window for the WWF to get him in 1994, especially since the WWF is kind of on the decline in '94, whereas Chuck is actually doing well with Walker Texas Rangers.
He's probably professionally probably doing the best because he's got martial arts schools, he's got years of films, and presumably, I doubt from Canon, but presumably from other studios, probably some kind of residuals from various things. And then he's got a successful CBS Walker show that ran for a long time and would have made some good bank and enough to buy some houses for that sort of money.
And I'm just double checking. Yeah, it's Steve Carver is the name of the director here for Lone Wolf Mcquade, and I'm guessing this Steve was a big fan of Sergio Leone movies when it
Yeah.
came to making this movie, because even this close up we see now of Walker, or not, I'm going to keep on calling him Walker, aren't I? Because of the
Well,
fucking
it's where we
connection.
it's where we
It's
really
McQuade.
cements
We're
that
going to
look of
call
the
him
beard, and he's
McQuade.
got the jeans.
Yeah, but this you see so many of these close ups during the movie, which are very similar to the spaghetti westerns, and how they really zoom into the people's faces. You can see their individual facial features and every little line and crevice on their face. I always love that style of movie.
I do wonder, like,
Beautifully
I don't
shot.
know. I love the Dollars trilogy, but I don't know if did Sergio Leone ever look at kung fu films? Did he borrow that from the kung fu films, or did he just do it
Probably
himself as an
did.
Italian? Because remember in the kung fu
He
films, they used to
probably
always
did.
have the sound effect where the guy gets mad and it would go and it would zoom in, and that was like the thing of this like 60s kung fu films.
That's right. That's right. And the reason I'm probably
And he's
like,
made a weird
obviously
sound effect too.
I suppose it's probably the Western aspect of where this particular movie is set that probably sends my mind into overdrive,
Oh,
thinking of
definitely.
like
It's
those
definitely doing that
spaghetti
Leone
westerns.
style. It's just I was watching this documentary a few weeks back where it showed a whole heap of highlights of those crash zooms from the 60s kung fu, and they become like comical when you watch like a bunch of them in a row. But they're more serious than the
There's
Western style.
also
They're much more dramatic and serious. They're not comical.
you do a really nice title sequence for the intro to this movie where you've just got footage
Yeah,
of the wolf walking through the landscape, and then it
yeah, it's beautiful.
freeze frame it. Yeah, beautiful. Like, just really nice title intro with the great music playing
It's real
alongside. It just
minimalist. It's showing like the outdoors, great cinematography, and minimalist bits of text that aren't intruding on seeing the beautiful visuals.
yes, yeah. It's really well shot. Beautiful location shooting. I'm guessing they were actually in the surrounding Texas, and
Yeah,
is
it
it
says
Dallas that the main place is
the end
based?
credits says thanks to El Paso and whatever, and city of this and town of that. So there were definitely some proper location shoots going on there.
And of course, like the Texas Rangers, like they're not just some like made up thing. They are an actual real
Yeah,
organization, with a pretty legendary kind of reputation, probably even more so around the time that this film was made.
yeah. Well, the movies, talk up the myth and legend, but there's plenty of examples of real life ones that kind of eclipse whatever you're watching a film, and it's like, holy shit, this guy did this and this and this, and traveled this far on horse or foot, and hauled this guy back to here, and no food, no water, and got the man.
The character of JJ McQuade in this movie, like, he's what you could call, like, he's a real one of these dirt sniffer type of dudes. He's the type of guy who could like track you down just by like
Yeah,
having like a strand of your hair and seeing like one of your footprints. Like, he's that type of, like, I'm surprised they didn't say, oh, he's actually like half Native American or something like
well,
that. Just to,
in Walker, Texas Ranger, his parents are dead, and he is adopted by an Indian uncle, so he does sort of learn
there you
skills
go.
like that.
There you go. Well, JJ McQuade definitely has those type of, like, almost hunter characteristics. Like, he
He's a
seems
bit of
like
a
a real,
wild man, He's like disciplined,
yes,
but he's got a bit of a wild man's like outdoorsman, rough, like real cowboys who can travel long distances and sleep rough for weeks and not be bothered by them.
he could well be, and I'm talking about the character of JJ McQuade, not necessarily Chuck Norris's, but JJ McQuade could well be the most manly man almost that's ever been introduced in a film.
It's almost surprising this didn't become like a
just a
series or
badass.
something, like this character.
Oh yeah, totally. You'd think it could have spawned a bunch of sequels.
Or it could have been his own TV show, like another bloody Justified or shows like that, based on novels and that.
I suppose the kind of like we'll talk about different bits and our favorite bits, but to give like a broad, somewhat overview of the movie. So we've got JJ McQuade. He's a Texas Ranger, pretty much the best Texas Ranger. He's got a very high arrest ratio. He's one of the best. The only problem is he's got that lone wolf attitude. He doesn't tend to do things by the book. You know, we see at the beginning of the movie, he's not afraid to like pull the trigger on, you know, if he has to take down some criminals permanently, he will do that. He'll also destroy property and vehicles and all that other stuff that just, you know, will become collateral damage. And of course, when you've got this type of attitude, it's going to lead you into trouble. The mayor's not going to be happy. The chief or the captain is not going to be happy. So we actually see it's the same guy who played General Phillips in the first Predator movie is like the captain of the force. And he's like, we need to put a stop to this lone wolf attitude of yours. So they give him a partner to try and kind of quiet him down.
And it feels so much like Dirty Harry. It's like, oh, there's the partner that dies at the start. And now you got a new partner. He's like, I don't want that partner. Get out of here.
Are you a Star Trek Voyager fan? Did you recognize his partner as Chakotay or from
I did
Star Trek
not
Voyager?
recognize him. I've watched all of Voyager back when the first ran on TV, but I did not recognize him. No.
Yeah, if you've just visualized him with the tattoos on the side of his head, then you won't be.
Yeah,
you can't
there he is.
see
He's so much younger. Yeah.
Very, very young. Yeah. Nice kind of role for him here because I'm pretty like I don't really remember seeing him in much else apart from this and then later on Star Trek. So
yeah.
Of course, Leon Isaac Kennedy there as his old buddy. No, Leon Isaac is it? Yeah, LQ Jones, I think Dakota. He's his old buddy. Yeah, and then Sally is his daughter. Oh yeah, that's another thing we should mention about old JJ Mcquade. He did have a wife and he has a child, but currently he's like separated from his wife because he had too much trouble separating his work life from his personal life. He was always kind of putting the Texas Rangers kind of before his relationship.
Jack Barron 24 or like Crockett and Tubbs and Miami Vice is like, here's the wife, but we're kind of friendly, but we're not together anymore because the work was too dangerous and too consuming.
And of course, it's a trope that I love because even though the marriage is kind of on the rocks, oftentimes we see like with these wives, like, oh, they still very much love their husbands. It's just, you know, I can't live this life anymore, you know. You know,
fair
how
enough.
do I know that?
Like, if I had a wife and or husband that was like in the bloody undercover as a vice cop in my boss, I'd be like, okay, bye. I'm going to go live somewhere else because people are trying to kill us all the time.
But yeah, old JJ, he ends up kind of getting caught up in, you know, what's essentially a scheme. There's a local kind of philanthropist businessman, played by David Carradine, who, you know, on the outside, he seems like a real charitable individual and a successful businessman, and he's holding these charity events. He's also a publicly known kind of martial artist as well. He does like
he's not a good martial artist. I can tell you that.
And so he's also, though, he's a drug dealer or a drug smuggler at least. He's bringing in lots of drugs into the area, so he's mixed up in some real dirty dealings, and him and Chuck are going to kind of come to blows. Initially, they're going to meet by happenstance when Chuck is attending one of these charity events, and you know, David Carradine's trying to like challenge him to get into the ring and like spar and fight with him, but JJ is not having any of this. He's just going to be the better man, and you know, he doesn't take up the opportunity to fight him on this occasion, though that would soon change as we later on get through the movie, and he finds out what a villainous scumbag David really is. And we should probably also mention as well the other kind of the romantic interest in this movie, Barbara Carrera, beautiful woman. Yeah, she's involved with David Carradine's character, but you know, Chuck is pretty soon to kind of, you know, he's not long swooning her, and she's obviously very taken aback by him because she kind of becomes romantically involved with him almost instantly. There must be a real attraction.
They play up a kind of trope here where it's like, well, it's like James Bond and all that, where it's like, here's the bad guy. The bad guy has like the most beautiful woman in the whole town or whatever, who instantly falls for the hero. The difference is here that she is professionally involved with David Carradine, not so much romantically. However, David Carradine being who's this like crooked business, trader mogul, he as power, he just wants her as a possession. Not so much a relationship like a wife. Wants her as a possession, and not for someone else to have it. So there's that side of it.
It's funny you mentioned the James Bond tropes there as well, because there actually is a lot of very Bondy, James Bondy type moments in this movie.
But she's a good person. She's not like one of those femme fatale type. She just looks like a femme fatale, but she's a good person.
But we do have like one of Carradine's kind of henchmen, for want of a better word. He's like a little person on a wheelchair. Like that's a very very Bond-like villain, and he even has like like stereotypical henchmen and suits and stuff. Just it's very Bond villain-like at times.
I couldn't remember that actor's name, but when I kept looking, I'm going, man, he really looks like a small Orson Welles because he's dressed in a nice suit and the beard. Just mentioned about old David Carradine. Like I loved him in the as Kwai Chang Caine in Kung Fu, which was a role that potentially Bruce Lee was going to be up for, and of course went to David Carradine instead. And he plays a good character in Kung Fu, but then here he's playing a villainous type, and you can tell straight away. Like I genuinely like David Carradine, so when I'm going to say some negative things, taking that light, that I genuinely like his career and like watching his roles, he is much better at being a villain than a heroic character because his whole body language and composure, at the start of this film that's the bad fucking guy. As soon as you see him, despite what they tell you about, it's a big town and he's sponsoring the event or whatever the hell's going on. Also, while he does some like fighting on screen with Chuck Norris here, David Carradine has never been a convincing on-screen martial artist now, then, or ever. He's terrible with his movements. He does these same sloppy kicks, which is just like kind of flicking your leg up lazily sideways, just like he did in Kung Fu, because he wasn't a martial artist, he's just an actor. So he's, however they've choreographed or trained him to do, they're telling him what to do, sort of thing. And anytime you watch him in these fight scenes, Chuck's like dynamic. He flicks his kick out. He's holding his hands up. David Carradine's hands, every time you see him, are down by his fucking hips when he should be up protecting his jawline. Any professional fighter would just knock him out in 2 seconds. So I know he's being an actor, but I'm just like, if that was a film made, I don't know, at least post-90s, someone would be like, put your fucking hands up, mate.
Yes. At least pretend, At least
pretend. But yeah, that aside, I did find it quite funny when I was watching it, just because I've watched that many martial arts films, and when you see like used to watching like your Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and Donnie Yen and Sammo Hung and all these guys who we could do all this stuff, and then you get someone who's not a genuine martial artist, and sometimes they just look real comical. But by the time we get to 90s and 2000, you're seeing it all fucking Neo and the Matrix. They're going to train in Kung Fu for 6 months and then come back and make the film and look much more passable. But it takes nothing away from the film. Like, it's still a step above watching any of the ham-fisted John Wayne haymakers and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah, he has. He's very menacing, his character.
He's great. Just look at him there. He's just like, he's going to kill me, man. And of course, this sort of role led to him being in Kill Bill, like this sort of character.
Yes. Yeah, he's just a very he's a duplicitous individual, like he's two-faced, like he's got that public-facing, philanthropist persona.
Like Kill Bill's like the old man version of this character. He's who was successful and kept going with the criminal empire.
Yeah, he survived the end of this movie and then went on to become like a leader of assassins or whatever, like he is in Kill Bill. But yeah, of course. So like, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to come down to JJ Mcquade taking on this guy, one-on-one. But before we get to that, we've got like tons of twists and turns because once David Carradine,
it's 1 hour 45.
Oh, it's long, and there's kind of there's one or two, I suppose, if you want to call them, like side stories that eventually do kind of merge into the main story. So,
and there's JJ's that's kind of going to end there, and then there's a whole other act and everything that comes.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just like, there's more to go. Great, there's more story, and it does feel like something out of a novel. There's another chapter, and something else happens, and
like there's kind of this side plot where JJ is daughter, Sally, she's got a new boyfriend, and he seems like a nice kid, but obviously, you
Yeah, he's
know,
like a
JJ, he's like,
military or Navy guy or
yeah,
Air
he's
Force
like,
or something.
he's going to be in the military, and you know, JJ
I love
likes
that
him, you
when
know, but obviously he's a
I love it
dad,
when
so he's
Chuck
going to
meets
go
him
like
as the dad.
stern.
You think, is he going to go up and be like, "Stay away from my daughter" or something like that? And he just goes, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." Because
He
I
likes
reckon it's
him.
because
He
the guy
likes
was in
him.
a uniform and he respected him because he was in the uniform.
He's still
Not a
giving him
deadbeat.
the stern Chuck look when he approaches him first, though. I'd say the guy,
Yeah,
if it was real life, you would be shitting yourself if that was your
yeah.
girlfriend's dad. Like, um, but there is that type of side story of, oh well, he's a bit worried about his daughter who's kind of the age now where she's going to have boyfriends and stuff like that. And we kind of think it's just thrown in there to maybe give Chuck a bit of depth, but really what ends up happening is it becomes a plot device later because
Yeah.
his daughter's boyfriend, because they accidentally witness a heist that's being conducted by David Carradine's goons, and the boyfriend ends up
Full
being
on. It's a
killed
heist,
and
but
the
like
daughter
mini massacre,
seriously
the amount
injured.
of guys that get wiped
Yeah.
out.
And but yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Sally's boyfriend ends up being killed, and Sally herself is very badly injured. Like they like ram
Yeah.
her off the road or
Yeah,
something. Like
she's in the car and they're on a hill, like I don't know, old bloody Richie Cunningham style lookout on the hill for a bit of, you know, kissing and all that. And in the sunset time. So it's just relaxing, nice scenery. And down on the bottom of the valley below the cliff or whatever is like the main road, and these trucks are coming through, like military convoy trucks, you know, shipping stuff. And it gets hijacked, and it's real like cartel style shit. These guys turn up, hijack them, and just like wipe them out with fucking like automatic guns and all that in 2 seconds. And we don't know. We get this kind of POV. There's this other vehicle behind the two honey bunnies sitting up on the hill. All of a sudden, these headlights turn on. This guy comes out. The boyfriend gets out thinking, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to fight these guys. And the guy just point blank shoots them. And then you think, why don't they shoot the daughter? Are they going to just leave her or what's going on? But then they get back in the car and they ram into her car and nudge it off the cliff because they were already parked at the edge of it for the lookout point. So she goes tumbling down in the car and could have died, but gets, you know, the car protects her and gets probably head injury or whatever.
that's all the motivation a man like JJ needs to,
Yeah.
you know, to go on a full-on path of vengeance. I suppose we should also
If
mention
that's
as
not
well
bad enough, she goes to the hospital and later in the film, the bad guy kidnaps her as well.
yes,
Because they assume she's dead, I guess. But
and don't they also kind of fuck? Do they kill or do they at least badly fuck up his old friend Dakota who's retired? They like really do a number on him as well.
yeah, they beat him up and then later on they shoot him. It's like
That's
so
right.
both things
That's
are
right.
old Colonel Sanders looking dude.
So yeah, he's a great character in this as well.
Yeah, he's
But
excellent.
yeah,
I didn't know what he was doing at first, and then went, oh, he's like another retired ranger or whatever.
you kind of get the impression with JJ's character, like this is the first time. Obviously, like he's a badass Texas Ranger who's making all these busts, but this seems to be the first time where where there's been like a real personal entanglement and everything
Yeah,
that's going on because he's got his own stuff going on with the daughter, then his best friend. Now he's kind of become romantically involved with the business partner of you know that enterprise as well. Am I correct in saying there's also a little bit of backstory where it was David Carradine's character that we believe actually had the husband of Barbara Carrera killed, maybe to take over the business? That's if it's not
yeah.
blatantly said,
I
it's
wasn't clear on that
insinuated maybe.
point, but you get that he's like this like criminal mastermind who's behind the scenes, just basically manipulating everything to his favor and doesn't care about who has to kill or wipe out to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think it may be insinuated that he may have knocked off his former partner in order to gain full control of the business, or
Yeah, I think it's
you know.
implied. It's implied.
But yeah, so we got like JJ. He's got a lot going on in his personal life because we also get that kind of funny moment where. So for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, JJ Mcquade lives in a complete squalor. He lives in like a dilapidated shack. He's
Yeah,
got
it's
a
like
pet
a little
wolf.
shack outpost right out there in the bloody boonies, you know. It's like out in the desert kind of land.
Yeah, it's like real like middle of nowhere Hickville. But when when the beautiful Asia Carrera comes over to his house and he's not there, she decides to actually like clean it for him. And when
Yeah,
he gets back
I
to the
felt
house,
so
he
bad
gets
for her when he
so
comes back,
angry.
and he's just like, "Where's my beer?" It's just like it's in the
Yeah.
trash.
He's so angry at how clean the house is. You know, it's such a
'Cause
funny
you can tell
moment.
he just doesn't really eat much, and he's just on the go and doesn't.
Well, we get a nice kind of, it has its tender moment as well. You know, they have a little bit of a
Mud
playful
wrestle.
water fight with the hose, and then yes, of course, there's a bit of mud wrestling before we get a little kiss shared between the two of them, which is what we actually saw in that image on the poster.
Yeah, I'll give it a
Um,
poster there.
Yeah, if you didn't know, you might think it's blood, but it's actually mud.
Yeah, there's mud. But yeah, don't get mud
Mud
in your
is
mouth. It
thicker than
doesn't taste
blood.
good.
Yeah, I think most women would probably be horrified at the idea of being thrown down into a muddy puddle and
I
then
was
try to
slightly
be kissed
horrified.
by
It's
a
like,
man.
look, out of the fucking mud. That's not sexy. It might be fun for them,
Yeah.
but watching it go, this is kind of gross. There's mud everywhere.
Yeah,
Up your bloody crack and sack it up your nose and everywhere.
and there's also a wolf looking at us while we make out in this mud. You know,
Yeah, that's not weird.
I want guarantees that wolf is trained.
But it's definitely a
But of
bonding moment
course,
of characters anyway. But it's a dramatic visual way to show what's going on. Isn't it?
I think maybe the most famous moment or one of the big deal type of deal, like just pieces of action in the movie, is when the kind of the henchmen, the baddies, they eventually get the better of JJ, and they're instructed by David Carradine to bury him, which
Yeah.
means quite literally that he's left in his truck, and they like use or whatever big machinery digger
Big, like,
thing
grader
to
thing.
cover it over and bury him alive, essentially. But there's a brilliant moment where he's lying there, he's all bloodied up and busted from being in the fight, and cracks open a can of beer, takes a sip of the beer, starts pouring the beer all over him, and it's like you can kind of even hear the bubbles of the beer fizzing. It's like
Like
reviving
Stone
him.
Cold move for the beer on your head.
Yeah. Then it's like he does, like he has like that Mad Max style contraption, like the Mad Max V8, where it like spins up the engine and he's able to like power his way out from under
it's
the
pretty
ground.
much the same sound effect. What they play, it's a supercharger like from the first Mad Max film, and it's that same sound effect. Like,
yeah, I
winding
instantly
up.
thought of it as soon as when I was watching it recently and I was revving up. I was like, yeah, fucking Mad Max, man. And he's able to actually drive his way out of the underground.
Yeah, you got the supercharger with sawn-off shotguns, so that's really Mad Max.
Yeah, it's and I know we're like bouncing all over the place, but like, look, it's that type of movie. If you haven't watched this, we're not going to do it justice giving you a straight, from the beginning to the end. You really need to sit down because there's just so much going on. Like Johnny said, it's a long movie. Like it's not a. Now I don't mean it's a long movie in the sense
a lot
that
of chapters and stuff happening.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on, and but there's plenty of good reasons there why it is so highly regarded, and probably why if it's not his most critically praised movie, it has to be up there, I would say.
I put it in his top 5 films for I've got like personal favorites and stuff I like for certain action or a setting or whatever, but I put it in his top 5 for actual like quality films, aside from being a good action film, which is just a decent film, as well as being quality action and stunts and all
that. For all the joking about David Carradine's fighting ability, they do a great job at the end with the final fight. Between the two of them.
The fight choreography is fine. I just have to point out that Dave Carradine can't fight his way out of a wet paper bag.
Any of those type of movements you see me doing at the start of the Boba Joe show when the title stopped, that's kind of what David Carradine moves
just
like.
Interpretive dance.
Yeah, in my fighting stance, but it's a very enjoyable fight. Like David Carradine still manages to come across as being menacing, even though he's wearing like a nice knitted cardigan and stuff.
Yeah.
it's like you expect them, to be in like a suit or something, like, as the main villain. It's like, no, I'm just gonna wear this like chill
Yeah, because it's one of
boy
those
cardigan.
bloody like side, I don't know, community town things next to the rodeo, and everyone's wearing pretty like casual clothes in it.
Would you have like a favorite moment in the movie?
I don't know. I like a lot of it. I did like I've watched it years ago. I have it on disc, but I watched the dodgy digital version last night. I watched some last night and again this morning, and because I was quite tired and I'd pretty much been awake for like 2 days before that, and not eating for 2 days because I was looking after me bloody sick Pedro and all that little business. But no, I was watching. The opening is awesome. Like the opening scene where he's on that kind of like hill overlooking. There's just chaos going on. There's these bloody bandit guys and some cops and stuff, and they're shooting it out. And there's a heap of guys, and there's beautiful widescreen image showing what's going on. And then back to his point of view, and he's looking at them through a scope. And you think, is he going to start sniping these guys, or he's just watching them? And I mean, we know from the title that it's Chuck Norris and it's him, of course, but we don't know what the heck's going on to start with. It's just utter chaos. And it's like, don't go down there, you'll get killed. And sure enough, he goes down there and basically surrenders to them, but then starts fighting them and takes their weapons and starts killing all the bad guys that were killing the cops and killing all the border law enforcement guys or whatever. It's just over the top. And then there's an awesome contrast with this opening scene. It's very much like Western, or you would say neo-Western now. We go from that, all this chaos in the kind of borderlands. We go to this big city and it feels like the start of a Dirty Harry, and all of a sudden it's like the commissioner or the chief chilling his ass out, like, what are you doing out there? You're not playing by the rules, and here's a new partner, and your old partner's going to die, and then this guy's here, and get out of my office, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a real great contrast of like, here's your old Western, now bang, now you're in the 80s like cop stuff with his rules and politics and got to use the right words and fill out paper forms and shit. And
I'd have to the opening in particular. It's a fantastic, not just introduction to the character, but introduction to the whole movie. Yeah, and like you said, it's chaos.
It could have been like some John Wayne film from the 1950s, but except you've got machine guns instead of six shooters.
Yeah, it's like like at the end of the day, it's like an old school cattle rustle that's going on.
Yeah,
essentially. Yeah. So it's got that real Western vibe already. But yeah, there's a really the kind of ringleader of the guys is really nasty. He's like, I'm not afraid of you,
big
Texas
gut
Ranger.
hanging out his vest. Yeah, it's like, that's a bad guy.
But yeah, and he ends up he tells us that his father once had his teeth kicked out by a Texas Ranger, and then JJ ends up kicking out his teeth anyway in the fight, like in a pretty brutal. Yeah. But I think my favorite moment is probably my two favorite moments would be, first of all, the bit I just described with Chuck kind of reviving himself with the beer, and then like literally just power charging his way out from underground to
got
save the day.
Got a one up.
But my second favorite bit is how like the actual final fight of the movie ends. So we get the back and forth for a little bit between JJ and David Carradine, but then David Carradine, when he's starting to get beat, he ends up like picking up a machine gun and he just starts shooting at JJ. So JJ holds the ring on a grenade and literally dodges bullets. Like he's literally running and dodging bullets while holding a grenade in his hand. And then gets up close enough that he's able to like just chuck the grenade at David Carradine, who tries to like bail into a building, but it's too late. Just does a massive explosion.
And I love that you think they're going to have this man-on-man fight, but David Carradine and Bad Guy's going to cheat or do something stupid. But like they really sell it when he not only cheats in the fight and goes for weapons when they're trying to have this punch kick man fight. But then the daughter comes running out going, Daddy, no! And it's so dramatic and like silly. She goes running over, I'm like, get out of there, you fool. And then David Carradine does this vicious backhand right to her face, right in center frame. It's like, oh, that's a complete prick. He's backhanding this like young woman who's the main character's daughter while they're already fighting to death. It's like, if you wanted to give him more motivation to kill you.
And he ends up killing Barbara Carrera's character too, doesn't he? So now
Chuck's Well, she does a similar thing too, and jumping around and
she sacrifices herself. And
If there's one thing you
his
should know about
marriage.
Chuck Norris, it's like just stay out of his way. He's going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Don't run in between him and the thing he's killing, or the crossfire.
We kind of are led to believe that his ex-missus is going to take him back at the end of the movie because he's there with the daughter and everything seems to be all kind of like happy families. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I think his partner's like, oh, they're robbing a bank in town. They've got hostages.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Rough.
I gotta go.
Rough the Dirty Harry too, along with Mcquade too.
And then his ex-wife is like, you're never going to change, Mcquade.
Yeah, but Nara's got a new lady that doesn't mind a bit of the crazy action, so maybe she'll tag along.
Yeah, there definitely could have been something for, if not like multiple sequels, at least one sequel. It feels like we could have gotten something there.
I would like to see him like go on like I don't know, you do different styles and all that, but I would like to see one where he maybe tracks someone across the state or across the country or something, has to get the man, and
Was there controversy when Walker came out? Like, was there any type of legal issues with them being like, is this supposed to be the same character, or they?
I don't think so. Like, because it's I mean, as far as I know, Chuck made up the Walker character, and he made it up based on his previous characters.
Yeah, they're definitely not the same. Like, even apart from obviously they have different names. Like, the character of Walker is not really similar to JJ McQuaid. Like, Walker is
different,
like
but you've got the regional locations that are similar.
Yes.
I mean, the Texas thing, but then you've got the real life Chuck who has had like ranches and horses and stuff. So that part of it as well.
Walker is definitely a lot more of a clean cut by the book type of dude.
Yeah, definitely.
To JJ.
Although I just watched the Walker pilot today. He meets Trevette, who he keeps calling Trivet in the first episode, just to be a dick. Because they didn't like him at first. So Trevette's his partner, the African American dude with the glasses and the hat's also another ranger, and he's talking about what happened and why didn't that criminal guy like you or whatever from the courthouse. It's like, well, I caught him and I arrested him and sent him in and he got off from the charge. But then for some reason that night when he went to sleep, there was snakes in his bed and all the power in his house was turned off. The doors were locked. It's like, what the hell? You're admitting you pretty much tried to murder with poisonous snakes.
Yeah, look, these things happen,
And they're just laughing about it on the phone, like, ha ha ha, yes, that's just something you do every day in this job.
I do have to apologize, though, to people listening today who've had to listen to me refer to the same person as Chuck, JJ, and Walker, all in the same.
He's Chuck. He's Chuck.
Each up, but like you know who I'm talking about. You know what it's all about. But you gotta love the guy, and I was I was a bit like, I was sad. I was sad when I heard the news. Yeah, it's not like he was a young guy or anything, but it's still kind of sad.
80s. Like, it's been so long since I've, like Expendables 2 was what you pointed out to me the other day. It was like 2012 or some shit. Yeah. So it's been a while, but I mean, he pretty much retired, and after Walker, he was retired pretty much from films and TV stuff. Then anything since then was kind of like a cameo or one-off thing, and he spent a lot of time, with his family and other people and doing charitable stuff, and he's done a lot of other stuff post movies and all that. He hasn't been like sitting on his ass. Actually, there was something nice in his biography that starts out a bit seedy, and you think, "Oh, where's this going?" But it turns out quite nice. Long after he met his wife and had kids and everything, and was married for a long time, a lady contacted him saying, "Oh, I could be your daughter," and he's like, "That's funny because I don't have any other family or marriages or previous wives or nothing like that." Because he was like, "Okay, it's probably a crank, probably some bullshit." But and the person was like remote, various states away where he had never lived, so it was really suspicious. But they communicated through, I don't know, probably letters or faxes or whatever the hell back then. But they went through doing like a DNA test, and it turned out this lady actually was his daughter that he'd never met, who was now like 20 or 30 years old. So it was like, that's a real, like, imagine that. Imagine someone just turned up tomorrow, or even it's like, "Oh, I'm your daughter." It's like, what? From when? How? What? So what had happened was, and this is from his biography, it's not a Schwarzenegger situation. It's not like that. It's not like that sort of thing. It's a bit more clean. He was traveling at some point or touring as whatever the hell he was doing in the early part of his career. And he went through one of the estates and had like a one night stand at a bar or hotel, whatever it was, met someone, literally had a person he met once ever in his life in a one night stand. And then 23 years later, it turns out that person had a daughter and kid and they'd never been in contact and never knew how to even get in touch with him before. He wasn't really famous back then, sort of thing. And then when he was, it's sort of like, well, do you want to contact him? Because it just looks like you're chasing after money in that. But it was nothing like that. She just wanted to actually connect with him and find out if she really was his daughter. And then they like got together in real life and became part of the family and embraced her as his actual daughter. So it turned out really, really nice. Could have gone badly,
really nice
but
yeah,
it went well.
No, that is a nice story. And look, I suppose,
and even he said he was completely clueless as to how it could have even happened because he didn't have like he hadn't cheated on his wife or nothing like this. This is like before his wife. This is a long, long time ago, sort of thing.
No, and look, that's fair enough. And like, you know, because not all those type of stories are going to have a happy ending.
No, it's not a Schwarzenegger like babysitter situation. It's not that one.
Yeah. Or like Eddie Murphy, I think he kind of maybe denied the existence of his daughter he had with Scary Spice or whatever. So, you know, there's not always a nice kind of ending or outcome to those type stories.
Often it's men behaving badly, but in Chuck's case, it's men behaving goodly.
Yeah. But I think, like, you know, and look, I'm not like a right-wing conservative or like pro-Christian anything, but you know, I will, like, I respect people who seem to kind of like follow the ideas that they claim to stick by. So the fact that he actually did do the right thing there, I think it says a lot about him.
Yeah, because a lot of celebrity Hollywood types don't, especially men, can be assholes if they're powerful and got money and they just don't want to know.
Yeah. And look, like, no doubt, like, I probably wouldn't like align with Chuck Norris politically or whatever, but I still think, you know, at the end of the day, he's like a decent man. Like, he was just like a man of his own convictions. Like, you know, I don't think he's like ever had any type of sinister motive or anything like that. He was just trying to
there's never been any hint of that sort of thing about him. Like, he's done so much charitable works overseas for people of different nations, different values, different faiths, whatever, that are like, you know, nothing to do with how he lives and that, and just done a lot of good in the world in my book.
Yes, he's in a lot of damn entertaining films as well. Like, I know, like,
some of which I've never seen. I've only seen about half or three quarters of this film, so now I'm filling in the gaps of the ones I haven't seen.
We plugged obviously our show that we did on Invasion USA, but like, I could tell you, like, I hadn't, before I rewatched it for our show, I hadn't watched Invasion USA in ages, and it's such a damn good movie.
Yeah, I love the Invasion USA and the Missing in Action and the Delta Force. Like, those are great fun. Actually, he did his brother who died in Vietnam. That's part of the reason why I did those Missing in Action films.
Yeah, and their quality. Delta Force, another great soundtrack, another great movie.
I love when he gets on the dirt bikes and rockets. It feels like you're watching the G.I. Joe cartoon.
I never felt more sorry for a villain in a movie than the guy at the end of Delta Force who just has to endure like a 5-minute uninterrupted beatdown before getting a motorbike rocket shot into him. Like, you know,
they're just there's such great action films, those ones, and it's funny. He did like a few, you know, films here and there, different studios, and then he became Canon's big star in the early 80s. He was like their big money earner.
Yeah. He was their poster boy. And then, of course, as we mentioned as well, or as you mentioned, like, he nearly took on a whole new separate life as like the meme guy, like the funny guy, like the guy who's like, because all those Chuck Norris facts, like, it just
I used to love that. Actually, I have two of those books somewhere, the early ones they did.
I think I may have mentioned when we did our Invasion USA show, when I was in college, in order to complete one of the semesters, we had to do I think it was like an event management program or something was part of the course you had to complete. So I did like a Chuck Norris double feature screening of, I think it was Invasion USA and Delta Force, I think, were the two movies we watched that day in the college theater, you know. a very sparsely attended event, I might say. Like it wasn't the most popular thing to do, but I had a good time. I got to sit and watch Chuck movies on a big screen and pass my course because of it. So I can't complain too much.
That reminds me of two of my favorite Chuck Norris facts, one of which is going to magically appear on the screen right now as I look at this. Chuck Norris doesn't sleep; he waits. And my other favorite one is when Chuck Norris answers the phone, he doesn't say hello. He just says, go. That's your cue to start running.
And even in the recent aftermath of his death, the jokes and that keep coming. Like I've seen already, there's been like AI photos of him carrying.
Death is now having a Chuck Norris experience. We know that for real. That joke has come to be real now.
He's somebody has done an AI image of him carrying his own coffin, stuff like for the funeral.
It's a bit off color. Is it going to be like I saw like Billy Crystal live several years ago in Perth, and he told a story about when they did City Slickers and they're not having Jack Palance, but originally in the casting it was going to be Charles Bronson, and Billy Crystal had this weird conversation on the phone with Charles Bronson. He said it's the only interaction he's ever had with him, just on this phone call for a potential casting thing. And he's like, yeah, and then the character's in this, and he's great, and at the end he dies. And Charles Bronson's like, what? Charles Bronson never dies. Charles Bronson never dies. That's what he yells about him. And then at the end of the story, it mentions Billy Crystal says years and years later when he died in real life, I can just imagine at his funeral, he must have been like kicking out of the coffin going, Charles Bronson never dies.
Or, Chuck Norris will never die really either. He's immortalized, I think, now in pop culture at this stage. And I am going to get around to watching a bit of Walker or rewatching a bit of Walker myself. Most of the Walker Texas Ranger I watched actually happened as the show aired on TV, because it was a daytime show over here for a good few years in the mid-90s.
Yeah, and it ran in reruns through the 90s, and then there was all those bloody Total Gym infomercials, because TV used to stop about midnight, but they would only play 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. in New Zealand before we had any 24-hour TV. That was the cheapest time for those ads, and they would just play for ages, and I would just fall asleep watching and be like, what the? It's like you're in a coma. You just wake up and like, what the hell am I watching? There's Chuck Norris and he's doing the thing, and now there's the other thing and the lady, and then there's blue blockers. And I've seen those infomercials over and over again because I would just fall asleep and there was nothing to watch. So I've seen it like 30, 50, 100 times.
I'm sure so many people bought that product, and it
actually is a decent machine.
Do we know yet what's on the cards for next week's show?
I haven't chosen a specific topic, so it's kind of open-ended, but I'm leaning towards, if we go back to our earlier images here, how about we do spin the wheel? We don't have to pick it now, we'll talk during the week, but how about another film from one of these other three ass-kicking dudes here? Because there's plenty of stuff around. Like I've literally been sitting down and watching more of this fella this week, and I thought if we're going to do a Chuck Norris, maybe we could do another action type of movie. But we can talk about during the week which one. And
it's a win-win situation no matter which guy we pick. That's the beauty of it. It's like, which of these three favorite foods do you want to do today? It's like, damn, that's a tough choice.
Do I want to eat Indian or Thai or Chinese? Yes, just give me them all.
Yeah,
give me all on a big smorgasbord.
And we've got because when we did do Stallone, we did First Blood, so there is potential to go deeper into the Rambos, but there's so many other Stallone movies too we can look at, likewise with Van Damme, likewise with Schwarzenegger. So yeah, we will communicate during the week, and by the time you folks see us again next week,
we've done 2 Schwarzeneggers, we've done 2 Norrises, because we did Jingle All the Way ages ago.
That's right. We've actually we've actually done 4 Schwarzeneggers, believe it or not.
Have we? What were the other ones?
We've done 2 Terminators as well.
Oh yes, of course. I always forget because it's like he's because he's a robot, so I forget he's not a person in this movie. So in my head, it's like it's a different thing.
He's not Arnold. He's Robo Arnold.
Well, he is. He was perfect for that because the early criticism of him in the film was, he can't act. I mean, well, he couldn't, but then he learned and he got better. But he is very wooden looking, and he's big powerful looking dude. So he was perfect to be this like stiff robot looking expressionless character. He suited it very well. Not that he can't act; he can act. He's very expressive and very funny. I think he's actually better, and I think Stallone is much better in serious dramatic roles like bloody The Best Rambos and Rockies. I think Schwarzenegger, great action star. I think he's hilarious when he's in funny movies. He's really funny.
And it's like everything else. It can be easy to label someone as like a bad actor, or he
did a lot of actual lessons, professional acting lessons in the 70s, and with other people around town and palling around.
At the end of it, like it's the movies that they're put in, it's the roles they're put in. Like if they're going to be put in a role that's not suitable for them, then it's going to come across that way. But like Arnold, he sticks the landing more than he misses it. So.
Oh, for sure. Did you know Terry Funk was in a movie with Stallone?
Oh yeah, Over the Top. Yeah.
Oh, there are 2 movies in, isn't there? Paradise Alley.
Yeah, and he's also in, I believe, he might even be in Roadhouse as well, Terry Funk.
Yes, he is. I was just reading his biography at the moment. Sorry to go off topic here before we finish up, but like, I just blew my mind. I was like, what? He's in so many bloody films. I had no idea. And he says the nicest thing he says in the biography about Stallone, he met him really early before being at like some I don't know, boxing fights or something like that, and got to know him, and then got offered a role in these films and that. And he said years later, when Stallone had him with some other stuff, he said he treated, even though Stallone had blown up and become a megastar, he treated Terry Funk exactly the same, just like the same dude, just real, no bullshit, no prima donna stuff. So that was like really, I really like hearing that about Stallone because he's a good guy.
Yeah, a man's man, a real dude. But yeah, we will confer during the week, and then don't worry, folks. One thing you can't be guaranteed of is next week it's going to be another testosterone-fueled action movie, most likely.
Around kicking stuff in my dreams tonight, man. I mean, around Roadhouse, round kick this, roundhouse kick that.
Doing roundhouse kicks, doing a Kimbo pistol action, doing it all.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you the last fact before we finish up here today. I was watching stuff. What did we talk about last week? Jeez, Fred.
Last week we talked about the Resident Evil games.
Yes. I was playing the Resident Evils all week, and I was dual wielding, which you can't do in that game. However, I was dual wielding. I had an Irish whiskey and I had an Irish cream, and I had a bit of both that night while I was playing that game.
It's the old 1-2 combo to get rid of your zombie infestation. Go left.
I was swearing at those zombies when they're jumping out. I was going, "Fuck you!" Having a great time.
Unleashing hell on them. Your alcohol.
When they come out of the corner behind the door, they piss me off, and I'm like, "Fuck off!" Which is funny because the characters of the game says swear as hell. It's great. But yeah, let's finish up here. We'll have everyone that's welcome. Come on back, y'all. Come on back next time.
Yeah, see you all again soon, and have a great weekend.
You have to go to say an extra thing now while I clumsily try and find the thing to play the video to take us out here.
And don't do drugs irresponsibly.
Don't eat bugs either, unless you want to, but I'm not going to stop you. Okay.
Even if you have to, but be responsible.
Yes.